Is this a great game or what? With the Hall of Famer Tim Kurkjian. I'm his son, Jeff Kurkjian. And, Dad, I'm coming to you live from Las Vegas again. But this is our final episode in May, and we had one heck of a guest yesterday on the show.
Right. Bob Ryan just regaled us with baseball, basketball stories. The fact that he was in the ballpark when Willie Mays played in Trenton when Bob Ryan was 4 years old. That just staggered me. I just loved it. And I could talk to him all day about baseball, basketball, life. Bob Ryan was great. Thanks again to him.
Yeah, make sure if you missed it, go back one episode. You'll see that episode. Plus, Dad, this is our final episode of May. We are getting into the dog days of summer here, not only of baseball, but of the podcast. Memorial Day is behind us. It's summer baseball season.
Right. And Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but every day I look at the date. So today is 5/29, and I always look at, is that a famous number in baseball history? Well, actually, it isn't. I should have told you that on 5/21, May 21, that's the number of home runs that Ted Williams, Frank Thomas, and Willie McCovey all hit in their careers. And I just love to look at those numbers and just see if there's anything special today. 529, Al Oliver, one of the great hitters, had 529 doubles in his career, 303 career hitter, 2,743 hits. I covered him when on the 82 Rangers as the beat guy, and they traded him to the Expos at the end of spring training in a deal that didn't quite work out for the Rangers. However, they got Larry Parrish in the deal. That was really good. But I saw Al Oliver, his nickname was Scoop, at the All-Star game in Montreal. So he was with the Rangers in spring training, and he had one of the great seasons ever with the 82 Expos. I said, Al, how you doing? First thing I said, how are you doing? He said, I had 75 line drives caught the first half of the season. That's what he said. He was hitting like 350 at the All-Star break, and he was counting the number of line drives caught. Typical Al Oliver. Loved him, loved covering him, and what a good hitter he was.
So, Dad, I have a message from a member of our family, right? That's what we call our listeners, Robert Ashley Pace. And this is not the only message I've gotten around this. Remember the Andy Griffith Show team?
Yes.
That we had with Jim DeShays.
Opie Pace, right?
Opie Pace, I'm writing you to thank you for mentioning my grandfather, Opie Pace, on your show on the episode with Jim DeShays. I wanted to let you know that he was the perfect fit for the team, not only because of his name, but also because he was a small town sheriff for 30 years in Spring Hope, North Carolina.
Andy Taylor is the sheriff of Mayberry. This is so great. Opie Pace, that is like the greatest thing. I love it that we could come up with a ridiculous list like we did and then have somebody comment in a really positive way on it. That is so good.
It really is cool to hear from a family member of that. And so I just wanted to bring that up, Dad, so we could give him a shout out. If you ever want to, if you have a Kurkjian for us or something you want to talk about, please let us know. You can email me, Jeff@greatgameorwhat.com, or you can reach me, greatgameorwhat.com, on the email.
All right. Now, Jeff, I have a question for you. You just flew to Las Vegas from Philadelphia with your 1-year-old daughter, McKinley, and you were alone on the flight. Now, trust me, Jeff, look, I traveled with you and your sister many times alone when you guys were really young. How did it go? How did the flight go with McKinley?
I got to say, I was very, very anxious and very nervous because Mom comes first. Mom works from home. McKinley's at home all day. And so Mom is number one. And I'm not afraid to admit that. That's okay with me. But the flight it was spectacular. We had to connect in Chicago. We went Philly to Chicago, Chicago to Vegas. So 2 flights, never good. But I realized that the change of being able to get off the plane and reset was actually really good. Now, I did have a little bit of a hack. So I am in Las Vegas for work right now because I'm going to see Kenny Chesney at Sphere. So he's doing a residency, Dad, at that giant globe in Las Vegas. Are you familiar with this new venue? No, maybe not. I know you're
Yeah,
not up.
I'm
I
not
know you're not
familiar
hit
with
with
the
new
word
music
hack.
venues.
This is the second time you used the word hack this week. You said I had a hack. What does that mean?
That's what you're tied up on. So a hack is
Yes, I'm
like,
confused. You used
like
it the other day. Jeff, you're not a hack, but you used the word hack twice.
it's a shortcut. It's a secret. It's
Oh.
a shortcut. That's the best way to describe it. So, like, if you were to be like, I have a hack
I've never heard
on
it
how
used that
to
way.
find the box scores better because you go to, ESPN instead of using the newspaper because they don't print them. That's a hack, right?
All right. Look,
Like you
the
hack
only
a
hacks I
computer.
know are Stan Hack, who played in the big leagues, and Hack Wilson. That's it for me. I've never used the word hack in that term. All right, good. Keep going.
So it went really well, but my hack was the fact that since I'm traveling for work, I did have a coworker who was traveling with me, my friend Rachel, who is our digital program director. She was on the same flight, and she offered to be in the same row. So was I really alone? No. But I definitely, I mean, she had to sleep on my arm. This is McKinley, not my digital program director, Rachel. And so it went really well, though. McKinley was great. She had a good long nap on the second flight. And then we're in Las Vegas now, and she woke up at 4:30 local time. So, because she's still kind of on East Coast mind. So we're kind of all over the place, Dad. But I'm going to see Kenny Chesney at Sphere. I know you and Kenny, oddly enough, country star Kenny Chesney, have a connection.
Yeah, we met at the White House many years ago for a big baseball night. He
Casual.
played in the Rose Garden. It was tremendous. I met him in the receiving line, and he knew who I was, and he loves baseball. And I think he really liked me because I'm shorter than him, and that's pretty hard to do.
And the weekend we moved my sister Kelly into Syracuse, Kenny Chesney was playing at the New York State Fair, and we went to go see Kenny. And Dad, I've made a living now of being a country music morning show host, and that was my first real country concert, was a Kenny show at the New York State Fair. So we always talk about that, what a great show that was. We were, seeing Kelly off. It was going to be your least favorite kid of the two was now coming back with you. And I'm sure you were like, I wish we could drop him off and keep Kelly, but doesn't matter. But that really kind of jump-started my love of country music. And so that show was more than just a cool moment to see Kenny live. It really is what got me into country music. So now here we are. Oh, gosh, that was 15 years ago.
Right. And it was pouring rain that night, Jeff. And we stood in the rain singing songs, the four of us. It was absolutely great. And Kenny Chesney told me, if you ever need tickets, let us know. So I went through his guys. We got tickets. I couldn't believe it. So cool.
I love that. Well, Dad, we're going to see him here in Las Vegas. I'll let you know how the show is. Let's jump right into the takeaways right now, Dad. I know we only have a couple days to work with, but what you got?
Cal Raleigh of the Mariners, catcher, has 19 home runs through Tuesday's game. So
is that Big Dumper?
That's a big number. The big dumper has big numbers. I love his Big Dumper nickname. His butt is as big as a bus, I was told. That's where he got the nickname from. When I asked him about that, he said, yeah, that sounds about right to me, and laughed out loud.
You said his butt was as big as a bus. You've been told. You're a journalist. Have you confirmed this with your eyes? Have you seen the backside of him in baseball pants? Can you confirm it's that large?
It's big. And but for him to confirm it is fine. So 18 of the home runs, Jeff, have come as a catcher, and he did it in 53 games. So the only other catcher in Major League history to hit 18 home runs as a catcher in his first 53 games was Roy Campanella in 1955, which was one of his MVP seasons. And Jeff, I know I've always tried to teach you lessons in life, and the things you just need to know. Must have respect for people. You must be kind to people, and you must know the 6 players who hit 40 or more home runs in a season with 10 or more letters in their last name. Roy Campanella is one of them. So as long as you remember those 3 lessons, Jeff, you will never get sidetracked.
Yeah, Dad, I learned who's on first before the ABCs in my household. Trust me. When I got to school, I was like, is anybody going to ask me about Babe Ruth, 714 home runs. They said, no, count to 5. And I said,
Right.
I don't know how to do that.
Right. Well, just for our listeners, Rico Petrocelli, Carl Yastrzemski, Roy Campanella, Curtis Granderson, Ted Kluszewski, Edwin Encarnacion. The guys who've hit 40 or more homers with 10 or more letters in their last name. Okay, the other thing is...
Dad, you are the definition of when women look at us and say, how do you remember these things, but you don't remember to take out the trash?
Jeff, I take out the trash and the recycles better than anyone. It's selective retention. I remember what I'm interested in and nothing else. Sorry, you know all about this. So Shohei Ohtani through Tuesday had hit 13 homers in May. First player to get to 20 homers this season. No surprise. The only Dodgers to hit more home runs in any calendar month than Ohtani's 13, and he's not done with May yet, as we know. Pedro Guerrero hit 15 in June of 85. Duke Snider hit 15 in August of 93. By the way, Jeff, Pedro Guerrero was a really good hitter. I mean, a really good hitter. He was not as good a defensive player as he was a hitter because he was such a great hitter. So the Dodgers lost a game one night, and I'm not hurting anyone's feelings here, but Tommy Lasorda in the post-game meeting has a post-game meeting because he's so furious at their defense. And he looks at Guerrero and says, what is the first thing that comes to your mind after the pitch is thrown? And Pedro Guerrero says, don't hit it to me. That's the first thing he said. So Lasorda screams at him and says, well, what's the second thing you think? And he says, don't hit it to Sachs. Steve Sachs, the second baseman. So the Dodgers, I'm told, got such a kick out of this story and this honesty from Pedro Guerrero that they went on a big winning streak. And Steve Sachs was not a great defensive second baseman, but boy, did he play hard, and God, could he hit. Couple other things, Jeff. The Rockies have lost 21 consecutive series over 2 years. That sets a major league record. Last year, the 24 White Sox did that, and the 1895 Louisville Cardinals did that. So we never pile on the Rockies. It just serves no point. I get no joy out of this, but a major league record was set on Tuesday by the Rockies. Another one set by the Rockies, unfortunately. And last thing,
it's been a tough year.
Yeah, your Phillies, by the way, Jeff, started out 13-13. Whispers, what's wrong? Well, through Tuesday, they'd gone 22-6, and they are rolling. So the Philadelphia Kurkjian home is a happy one, right?
Ain't that the truth? I mean, our dog Ranger, named after Ranger Suarez, who's on a 4-0 start, if I'm not mistaken, after coming off that injury.
Right.
And I mean, he had a great start to this season, or to last season, I should say, before getting hurt, and then now starting this season. So, yeah, we're all happy here, Dad. I'm going to 2 games in 1 week. I'm actually really looking forward to this. In June, country music star Nate Smith is doing a post-game concert. So I'm going to that on June the 10th. And then, as kind of my Father's Day gift, I'm going to the game the night before the Father's Day. It's the Saturday before at a 4:00 game, which is so perfect, and we're going with 2 friends of ours. So it's gonna be a baseball packed week for me, which I'm really looking forward to.
Jeff, when did you become a father? Why didn't you tell me that? All right, never mind. All right, let's get on to the Kurkjians, Jeff.
Oh
okay?
My gosh, yeah.
All right, so Jeff, let's see if you follow the thread that I've been talking about all year. Jared Duran of the Red Sox, their leadoff hitter, struck out 4 times in a game on Tuesday. So let's see how well you've been listening to me this season. That is the 15th time that a leadoff batter in baseball this year has struck out 4 times in a game. And that's the most ever before we get to June in Major League history. I've been tracking this since the first day of the season.
Yeah, Jose Altuve did it.
Right. A bunch of guys.
But Ellie De La Cruz did it.
I don't think so. No. O'Neill Cruz did it recently. It started on opening day in the first game of the season between the Brewers and the Yankees. Jackson Chourio of the Brewers, the leadoff hitter, went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts, making him the 3rd player ever to strike out 5 times on opening day. And of course, you can't remember the other two, just like I can't remember anything other than baseball in my entire life. But Ron Karkovice and Max Muncy.
Max Muncy did it a couple years ago.
The only other guys other than Churio to strike out 5 times on opening day.
When the name Ron Karkovice comes up, which former Is This a Great Game or What guest do you always think of?
Am I supposed to know this?
Steve Rushin.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like he references Ron Karkovice so much.
Right. Well, Steve Rushin is just the funniest guy in the world.
We absolutely love him.
All right, a couple things, Jeff. The Cubs still, through Tuesday, do not have a home run from their third baseman. Their third baseman this year hitting .212 with no homers and 13 RBIs. And the Cubs are not only in first place, but they are a really good offensive team and do not have a homer from their third baseman. Meanwhile, their number 9 hitters this year are hitting .246 with 6 homers and 30 RBIs. So the last team to go this many games into a season without a homer from a third baseman, the 2023 Marlins went 66 games before Gene Segura hit one. And 2013 Marlins went 77 games when Placido Polanco. So I guess it's not as unusual, but Matt Shaw got the big hit on third baseman on Tuesday night, went to the University of Maryland, biggest hit of his major league career, walk-off single to win that game, a game called by our dear friend Jim Deshaies. 2 silhouettes on Deshaies.
Dad, speaking of University of Maryland, did you see who their commencement speaker was? That you're a graduate of University of Maryland, and you've spoken graduation weekend, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I have.
Did you see who they got? And I hate to say, but this guy is way more famous than you.
Who is speaking?
I would say he's a much more colorful guest than you are.
Larry David?
No, a little furrier than you.
Not many people are, Jeff, especially around the ears and in the nose.
No.
Who
Kermit
is it?
the Frog was the commencement speaker.
No, he wasn't.
I swear. Kermit the Frog was the commencement speaker at University of Maryland.
That's amazing. I did not know that.
Now you can say you're on a list with Kermit the Frog. You both spoke at the commencement at University of Maryland. That's great company to be a part of.
That is good company. I love Kermit the
Why
Frog.
are there so many songs about rainbows? All right, Dad, I'll leave you alone on Kermit the Frog here. What do you have on this date in baseball history?
Well, in 1942, Lefty Gomez, Hall of Fame pitcher, got 4 hits in a game. In one game, he got 4 hits. Pretty rare for a pitcher. Now, he always described himself as a terrible hitter, even though he hit 147 for his career. Not bad. But the point is, he got 4 hits in one game. A self-described terrible hitter, and then went 0 for 20 for the rest of his career. So the final hit he got in a major league game was part of a 4-hit game. Do you find that interesting?
I find that interesting, but I find it more interesting that I wonder if anybody's ever named their child Lefty in hopes that they just will be a hard-throwing left-handed pitcher. Because Lefty Grove's real name is not Lefty. I know that. I think it's like Robert something, right?
Robert Moses Grove, yes.
Which makes him sound so much older, by the way.
Yes, yeah, totally agree. All right, Jeff, also on this date in 1976, you've heard this, it's one of my favorite things, Joe Negro hit a home run. The only home run that pitcher Joe Negro hit in 1,165 plate appearances, and he hit it off of
his brother.
What's his brother's name?
Phil Negro.
Way to go. Jeff, you are listening. I am so proud of you. I'm just trying to hope through osmosis that you're picking this stuff up. Yes, Joe Negro hit a home run off his brother Phil on this date in 1976, the only one that Joe Negro ever hit. Today is Paul Skeens' birthday. He is 23 years old today. May 29th, Paul Skeens was born in 2002. And 20 years from now, Jeff, we're going to be talking about his Hall of Fame career, because I really think even this far in advance, I think that is where he's headed. And it's amazing to me, Jeff, that you are 9 years older than Paul Skeens. Do you find that hard to believe?
It's really saddening, Dad, because what have I done with my life? I'm 31, and if somebody found a baseball card of me, it would be in the trash. If they found a baseball card of Paul Skeens, they'd be a millionaire.
Jeff,
So
the back
there's
of
a
your
big
baseball
difference.
card would say you graduated with honors from Syracuse. You went straight from Syracuse to your own radio show in Cleveland, and then in Las Vegas, and now in Philadelphia. You are doing great.
Dad, you flatter me so much, but I think you're a little bit biased in this situation, being that I am your only son. But
All
thank
right.
you.
You're welcome.
All right, so coming up next here on Is This a Great Game or What, Dad, I've got a surprise. You were spoken about on a video game.
That's not possible. As you know, I've never really truly played a video game in my life. It just brings new meaning to the word tedious to me. But all right, go ahead.
So we have that plus best of all Tim, the greatest Red Sox of all time, according to my dad. Ozzy to Oral, the best number 19, and I am a seamhead. It's all coming up next on Is This a Great Game or What? Is this a great game or what? Welcome back, Dad. Let's jump right into you making a guest appearance on a video game. Now, you seem a little nervous, and you tell me all the time, Dad, you put together your Kurkjians and your takeaways, and you say, Jeff, if there's anything you want to talk about, let's slot it into the rundown. I have something pretty amazing, and I'm excited to share it with you, but you seem a little nervous about this.
No, I think I know what this is. Greg Colley from Baseball Tonight told me I made is it a Boog Shabby clip?
It is a Boog Shambi clip in MLB The Show 25. A member of our family, his name is KK Fung. He emailed me, and it was really great because he messaged me a while ago and said, did you know that your dad is talked about on MLB The Show? Now, obviously a video game, Dad. All of the stuff that's in the play-by-play is pre-recorded. So he said, this is what I heard. I heard your dad being talked about. And I said, man, I'd love to get a clip of that. I don't know how he got it, but he went back and he found it somehow. And he said, I found it. He sent me the video. Let's take a listen to what Boog Shambi had to say about you on a video game.
Okay.
Do you remember when Tim Kurkjian ran in the sausage race in Milwaukee?
No, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, they used one of the kid-size ones.
This isn't exactly a mascot race, but I love what they do in Atlanta with the freeze.
Dad, what did you think of that? That's amazing.
Yeah, not a surprise. I'll just tell a quick story about the the sausage race I was in, okay? I just assumed they were going to let me win the race, but they didn't. These were professional pork products I was up against. And they showed me the costumes, and they said, you're going to run in the hot dog costume. I asked if they had something in a breakfast sausage, something a little smaller. They said no, and the guy actually looked at me and said, these costumes are built for bigger people. And he said, you're not very big. Thanks. I wasn't sure. Why don't you give me a paper cut and pour lemon juice in it? We're closed. Right. So I ran the worst race ever, came in dead last by a mile. I went into the clubhouse after the race, and Kyle Loesch, who was on the Brewers at the time, sees me walk in. I'm no longer wearing the outfit. I'm back to my professional outfit covering a major league game, and he announces to everyone in the clubhouse, there he is, the worst hot dog ever. So that's one of my claims to fame, Jeff, one of the worst hot dogs ever. And I made Boog Shambi's show. So finally I made it to the show, Jeff.
You made it in MLB The Show, Dad. Proud of you. And shout out to KK Fung for sending us this. And he writes in the email, because I told him I was going to talk about it on the show and play the clip. He said, thank you. I can call it a good life now. I've made it onto the show.
Well, thanks for the fun, KK Fung.
That was so great. All right, Dad, let's move forward. We got to go into the best of all Tim. So every single Thursday on the show, we bring up a different franchise, and you name the best player in that franchise. But now in the best of all time, we have the Boston Red Sox, storied franchise. But I think there's a pretty obvious answer here now.
And this is a tribute to Bob Ryan, who came on with us yesterday. We were talking about the greatness of Ted Williams. Ted Williams, Jeff, is the second greatest hitter of all time for me, behind Babe Ruth. His career OPS, Jeff, is 1.116. So the only active player that has ever had one season with an OPS that high is Aaron Judge, who did it last year. No other active player has ever had an OPS that high in 1 year, and Ted Williams did that for his career. And if it weren't for his military service, he would have hit, instead of 521 homers, he would have been closer to 700. He would have been the all-time RBI guy. And he was so revered, Jeff. I'll never forget Paul Molitor, one of our favorite guys, went to a batting title luncheon where everyone in there was a great baseball player, and it was for batting titleists only. Molitor won a batting title. Williams won more than one, of course. So Molitor walks in the room and he sees Ted Williams talking to Joe DiMaggio in the corner. And Ted Williams blows off Joe DiMaggio, runs over to Paul Molitor and says, I always wanted to talk to you about hitting. I love watching you hit. Okay. And Paul Molitor is he's speechless. He's one of the great talkers ever. He is speechless because Ted Williams is now asking him 2-0 pitch. What are you looking for there? Ninth inning, all this. And Paul Molitor said, I didn't even know what to say. It was like, hubba. Ted Williams just blew off Joe DiMaggio to come over and speak to me. That's how revered Ted Williams. And let's see if you can remember Dan Shaughnessy last year on our podcast when he sat down in Cooperstown with Ted Williams the day after the induction, not Ted's induction, another induction. And there were 6 people at the table and no one said a word, correct? What did Ted Williams?
Because everybody was scared to say anything to Ted Williams.
Right, because Ted Williams looked at the 6 people around the table and said, scared to death, aren't you? And they all went, yep, we're afraid to talk to you.
You're damn right we are.
And
Dan Shaughnessy is one of the most brave journalists ever.
Fearless, and has Boston roots. But even he had trouble coming up with the first question for Ted Williams. Scared to death, aren't you?
Love it. Dad, let's jump into from Ozzie to Oral. We're counting down the best baseball players from 1 to 55. Ozzie Smith to Oral Hershiser. You just let out a sigh. We're on number 19.
19 was impossible, Jeff. I'll just tell you who I left out. I left Robin Yount out on this list.
Wow.
You know how hard that was for me to do? You know how much harder even it was to leave Tony Gwynn off the greatest 19 of all time list. Now, anyone who votes for Robin Yount, you will get no argument from me. Anyone who votes for Tony Gwynn, no argument from me. But I chose Bob Feller as the greatest 19 of all time. Jeff, he won 266 games, had a .621 winning percentage. And of course, if he hadn't given up all those years to military service, he was a war hero. He would have won well over 300 games. Jeff, remember I told you at age 17, he struck out 17 batters in a major league game. Kerry Wood had 20 as a 20-year-old. Those are the only 2 as far as I know. And I'm always amazed that Bob Feller is pitching in the major leagues at age 17. He's striking out 17. And then when the season's over, he goes back to high school. And he's in, chemistry class, geography class. And so he led the league in strikeouts from age 19 through 22. That's 4 years in a row. Then he went into the service for 3 years. He missed 42, 43, and 44. And then he led the league in strikeouts 1946 through 48. That's who Bob Feller was, one of the great pitchers of all time. But he was an irascible sort, Jeff. He was tough. And do we have a clip on Bob Feller somewhere?
Yes, we do. So we had Steve Sparks on a couple of weeks ago now, Dad. Fantastic interview. If you missed it, it was hilarious. We got all the laughs. You can scroll back in the feed to check it out. Steve Sparks was pitching in the minors, and Bob Feller was there and I'm going to misrecalling exactly why he was there, but he met
He
Steve
was
Sparks.
doing a book signing and was throwing out the first ball, and Steve Sparks made us laugh out loud with the first time he ever met Bob Feller.
Bob Feller was going to promote a book that he had written. I was pitching for the Stockton Ports in the California League, and Bob Feller was going to throw out the first pitch, and he was in the locker room on a day I was starting. I was the only one in the clubhouse. So I went up to Bob Feller, and he goes, "You're pitching today, huh?" I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "How old are you?" I said, "Well, I'm 27 years old." He said, "Excuse me?" I said, "I'm 27 years old." He goes, "Christ, son, what are you doing with your life?" I'd won 150 games and served 2 terms in the war by the time I was 27. You need to rethink this. And I think I gave up 5 runs in the first inning.
Steve Sparks. Christ, son.
What are you doing with your life? And then he didn't even get out of the first. He gave up 5 runs in the first inning. Only Steve Sparks would tell that story on himself and make us laugh out loud. That's been the highlight of the podcast this year for me, was that little story he told about Bob Feller.
You know, at the end of last year, we did a best of episode where he played the best moment from every interview. And we didn't award the best of the best, but I mean, I think the Jeff Francoeur Tiger Woods clip where he faked an injury, Bobby Cox made him fake an injury in spring training to go play golf with Tiger Woods. We've said the story a million times, but I think this is very much in the running for the best clip of the year.
Right.
And I'm glad we could bring it back up for the podcast.
Right.
All right, Dad. I am a seam head. Let's jump in. And if you have a submission of why you are a seam head, the nerdier the better, send me a voice note, jeff@greatgamerwhat.com. Who do we have today, Dad?
Jeff, we have Ed Lockett, who sent us a wonderful seam head message. He read my first book, America's Game, and on the front inside cover, there is a picture of Joe DiMaggio swinging a baseball bat with a catcher and an umpire there. And you're not going to believe what Ed Lockett came up with. Let's listen.
Hello, Tim and Jeff. I can't tell you how much I enjoy your podcast. I am a seamhead because I love baseball history and enjoy digging into the minutiae of baseball events. While browsing Tim's book, America's Game, the end sheet photograph of Joe DiMaggio piqued my interest to learn more. While I am certainly no Frank from Elias, I believe I have this correct. The photo is from a game played on July 29, 1941 at Griffith Stadium in Washington, D.C. The Yankees faced the Senators in a doubleheader that day. In the photo, you can see Joe DiMaggio, catcher Jake Early, and umpire Bill Grieve. Joe singled in the 7th inning of the second game off of Red Anderson. It was the 42nd consecutive game that he hit safely in, and that surpassed George Sisler's modern game record of 41 games. And that's why I'm a seamhead.
Now that guy, Ed Lockett, is a seamhead, Dad.
Yeah, but Jeff, how great is this that he looked at a picture? That's all. It didn't have any dates, and he identified the game properly. Now, he did say it was on July 29th. It was on June 29th, not the point. The catcher in that game was Jake Early. He's correct. The pitcher was Red Anderson. That is correct. And Bill Grieve was indeed the umpire. I went back and checked the second game of the doubleheader on June 29th. Ed Lockett was correct. And he, no doubt, qualifies as a seamhead.
Well, thank you so much for that entry. And again, if you want to be a part of the show and show your seam-headedness, you can email me, jeff@greatgameorwhat.com. Dad, 3 episodes a week. We are rolling into June. The next time you hear from us will be in June, which is incredible. And I'm really looking forward to, because next week we have a little bit of a different idea for what we're going to do for our guest. We'll leave it at that. Right, Dad?
Yeah, we're going to give you a hint. It's Lou Gehrig Day. We are going to celebrate that, and we're going to have a special guest to go along with me a very special guest, and you're going to interview both of us.
It's safe to say you and I are not very good at teasing things without just giving it away, as you can tell from both of our teases.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave it at that. We're really looking forward to, obviously, our family has a very close connection to Lou Gehrig's disease, and so we're looking forward to you joining us and learning a little bit more. Dad, I'll see you back. I'm flying back with my baby on Friday, so another double flight back home. So send me good prayers, okay? Hope for naps.
Right. Jeff, if you're in trouble, just bring some food in a Tupperware and open it up in the middle of the flight. You will empty the row faster than anyone. Agreed?
If you know, you know. I will say, though, the only thing that's more of a deterrent than stinky food might be a baby. Nobody wants to sit next to me. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, thank you for being a part of our family.